These remarks will be no more than 5 minutes long because that's as long as I can hold my stomach in. My life didn't get very interesting until I took a sharp turn to the far left, most people say, and I joined the Peace Corps at 19. I ended up, as you saw, in the Atacama Desert in northern Chile. There's never been any recorded rainfall there. I lived in a 2-room, dirt floor, no ceiling house, a place where split level meant literally split. But as barren as the landscape was, the people were full of color. From the families I worked with, who were literally dirt poor, but as talented and as ambitious as any cross-section in our country, I saw that the secret of success is often just the serendipity of geography. Nothing more complicated than where you're born. That's true about people in our country, just as it is about people around the world. So from the brave folks that I lived with for 2 years, whose spirits overcame amazing oppression, I learned 2 inexorable lessons. First, and on a macro level, I think I need a Kleenex here. Okay, I'll just use the napkin, what the heck. Brent Awards don't do laundry, by the way. So, on a macro level, I know just how precious life in the United States is, and I know how important it is that we return to being a beacon of freedom and opportunity for the world. Second, and on a more micro level, I learned to always trust the power of the individual spirit. Both these lessons have come back to hit me on the head at surprising times and places in my 33-year career. Now, I've spent most of that career in large law firms, the pinnacle of private practice. And being one of few or the only woman to manage an office, lead a department, sit on the executive committee, or amazingly, chair the compensation committee, has given me a PhD in strategic analysis of gender in the private practice of law. And here is where the Peace Corps lessons come back in force. First, I am an immigration lawyer. That is such an improbable choice for a pedigreed attorney in the large firm world. I should have been something far more socially acceptable, like, say, an expert in business fraud. But my passion for immigration is rooted in the memory of a faraway, dusty town in Chile that brought me in, let me grow, and sent me back to comfort without a single moment of selfishness or fear or prejudice. You know, with all the wealth and influence that we enjoy, I have to say, we're not as sophisticated in understanding the value of embracing the immigrant or of building global bridges than that simple group of people eking out a living from dry and cracked soil. It's a powerful vision, and it's one that no amount of raised eyebrows in over-decorated high-rises by my well-intending partners over the years was ever able to trump the memory of the loving, generous people of Copiapó. So second, the Peace Corps let me, in fact, it made me trust my own spirit. After more than 3 decades, I find that the private practice of law is still basically unfriendly to women and minorities. We still bill hourly, the major driver behind working too much to have a balanced life. We still base partnership and compensation decisions really on just 2 factors, hours billed and business development banked. It's a chicken and egg formula that disadvantages those who do not have primary access to CEOs and general counsels. And it discourages sharing clients, and it discourages working in teams. We still judge each other on a strict standard of monetary value added, with no consideration really for the indirect benefits of skills that have a far less immediate but long-term more important ROI, team building, mentoring, community involvement, management expertise, and balance. And as a result, we still have to have committees to study diversity rather than just make the changes that would actually broaden membership at every level of private practice. You know, nothing about this should really be a surprise, because any organization that is deemed successful by those who organize and control it is not going to change either on its own accord or to appease restless voices within it. For those who own it, it works, and it works very well. So moral arguments, even long-term economic arguments, are trumped by the short-term benefits of the status quo. In this area of organizational psychology, law firms really are just like any other business. Seeking real change from within a law firm seldom works, and I can tell you the cost is enormous to the individual woman who chooses or is pushed to become the change agent. So instead, I think women, perhaps most women, should set up their own shops using their own values and their own passions and goals to determine what it should look like, what its mission is, and who should belong. I say that because the best step I ever took as a lawyer was the run across the threshold into my own firm. Diane Deere and I created a workplace and an ethic that worked for clients and staff by throwing out most of the old forms that actually get in the way of production. We had a flat hierarchy. We fearlessly reviewed what lawyers can do and what non-lawyers can do even better and at a much less cost. We rewarded both lawyers and non-lawyers based on their contributions. We billed by the task at a preset rate, not by the hour, so we could reward efficiency. We developed our own software, knowing that technology is the great leveler. It allows a small business to do big work from anywhere to anywhere. We studied and borrowed best practices from any and all sources. We used Sarah Holtz as a management consultant. We celebrated personal stories as well as professional ones, and we always had food. It turned out to be a very profitable model, as you heard, but one that I think is also replicable in many other areas of private practice. It offers more control and balance over one's work life. And because of that, it's a model that I think speaks immediately to the bruised spirits and souls of many women toiling unhappily in firms they did not establish under values they do not embrace. It's also a model that continued. When Diane and I retired, the firm passed on to Littler Mendelsohn and is now continuing, first led by Wendy Tice-Wallner and by a group, Bonnie, Belkis, Debbie, Sandy, Leslie, Marguerite, and yes, one great guy named Rod. So, in the spirit of the Margaret Brent Award, who certainly eschewed the expected and who always sought change from outside, and in the memory of an abandoned part of northern Chile that taught a very young woman to take big chances and trust herself, I urge women who chafe in the traditional private practice model to trust your own spirits and take off. Your own wings will carry you higher, not lower, when you fly the coop. So go create your own workplace. After all, you're going to have the same intellect, the same judgment, and the same energy. The big difference is that this time, you get to tell yourself what to do, when to do it, and how. And how sweet is that? I would be remiss in not acknowledging my posse. Family is the key. You met them a little bit in the video, but they're all here relatively cleaned up, I see. 4 children and their 4 significant others, my brother, my sister, my nieces, my nephews, including my special niece, Erica Collins, who's a lawyer, a colleague in New York City. And at the very top of the heap is one beleaguered and usually bemused husband of 40 years, St. Dean. Whatever part of my life family doesn't fill, friends do, especially clients and colleagues who've become friends. There's a bunch of them here. They're the noisiest tables. That doesn't surprise me. My triathlon gang is obvious because they're eating like they're still in training. Wearing bike shorts and headbands, very tacky group. And there are two Peace Corps survivors here, Mary Ellen and Maggie, partners in deeds that, if they were known, would actually damage foreign relations more than Wolfowitz. And they're here today, several travelers from Bolt Hall class of '74. And finally, to the wonderful group that wrote letters, including 4 Arizona icons. One of them, Justice Sandra Day O'Connor, couldn't be here today, but says hello to all her ABA friends. And the other 3 are here. Chief Judge of the Ninth Circuit, Mary Schroeder, Chief Justice of the Arizona Supreme Court, Ruth McGregor, and Arizona's magnificent Governor, Janet Napolitano. They're all here. They all wrote letters for me, and I'd like to thank you now in public for your perjury. To all of them, to the Commission, and to the supporters of the Margaret Brent Award, I thank you from the bottom of my heart for this most special experience.